In 1974, Steve Warren, writing for The Barb, said of the then recently released film adaptation of Mame, "There's really only one thing wrong with it. Lucy herself. The picture succeeds in spite of her, but she's a tremendous handicap for it to overcome." Ouch. For someone who had been around the block as long as Lucille Ball had been by the mid-1970s, one might think a review like this would not matter all that much, and to the public eye, that's how she mostly portrayed her feelings. "It's beautifully done," she was quoted with saying. "I hope this film is a success. I have lots of Lucy fans, and I think they will come out for me. I hope so." However, as more and more reviews poured out in a similar vein to Warren's, she began to get more defensive. In an interview with critic Gene Siskel, she said, "It's not that I'm tired. It's the pictures they've taken and what they've written about me. The studio spent plenty of money to get the best photographs in Mame, so why do the newspapers have to send people just so they can take ugly pictures of me? So I look my age. What's wrong with that? These stories make me feel wrong and old." And this is true. Warner Brothers spent a lot on publicity for Mame, ensuring its star looked her best to promote, in their words,
"The Lucy that is warm, funny, and glamorous, and the Lucy that is loving, passionate, and spirited." Now, this is not a review of Mame, but there are cracks in this film's foundation that can be drawn directly to the mismanagement of her career following her divorce from Desi Arnaz. Let's talk about them. Already a frequent smoker, it was the 50s after all, the stress of running a production studio, literally presenting herself as the face of Desilu both on screen and off, exacerbated this habit, slowly but steadily lowering her voice and wasting away her stamina. It is pretty jarring to hear her voice degrade from I Love Lucy to The Lucy Show to Here's Lucy.
Hello, friends. I'm your body meat a Vegemin girl.
Cross one out. You haven't done any harm.
And nobody needs a job worse than a one-eyed remover.
This makes it very difficult to sustain the notes in a relatively complicated musical score.
Though it may not be anyone's birthday, and though it's far from the first of the year.
But aside from the vocals, Ball was, at the time, 63 and showing her age, something she was incredibly insecure about revealing to her audiences, who still viewed her as the spry Lucy persona she perfected in the 1950s. On the small screen, Ball's physical comedy chops were unmatched, and done so expertly that every iteration of the Lucy persona managed to imbue this aspect into the comedic situations. Right before production began on Here's Lucy's 5th season, Ball broke her right leg in a skiing accident. Production of Mame was halted, and the opening Here's Lucy episodes of the season featured an in-universe reason for Ball to have her leg in a cast. This limited her mobility and caused her to be greatly depressed. "I'll never work again," she said. "To hell with it. To hell with it." Ball was also very aware of her looks, using her stylist to hide or diminish the aging her body was experiencing, particularly her face. Said her career-long makeup artist Hal King, "She was so afraid she wasn't going to look good, so I used a liquid adhesive, and she couldn't wear it all day long. It would hurt her, so I'd have to take it off, and then, in the afternoon, start again. It was awfully hard toward the end to make Lucy look good." To give credit where it's due, props to director Gene Saks for working around these insecurities, ensuring Ball, after her skiing accident, that she was the one that the studio wanted as Mame. Although one aspect he may have overcompensated on is the decision to shoot Ball in soft focus on her close-ups, a stylistic choice made obviously enough that it caused critic Pauline Kael to note, when Mame's best friend Vera Charles asks her,
"How old do you think?"
and Mame answers,
Somewhere between 40 and death.
one may feel a shudder in the audience. How can a woman well over 60 say a line like that, with the cameraman using every lying device he knows and is still unable to hide the blurred lines? Again, ouch. When you watch Mame, you can see how, in many scenes, Ball is static and relies mostly on her facial expressions to land the jokes. She is, however, front and center in the titular Mame, and her confidence exudes on screen. So happy to be back doing what she loves. There's a charm in it that makes someone who has intimate understanding of Ball's dedication to her work feel warm and happy, and you might even be able to overlook the flaws of the performance and enjoy the movie for what it is. These incidents and insecurities are smoothed over, or at least addressed, in an episode of Here's Lucy, where in-universe Lucy Carter meets actress Lucille Ball, there to promote then upcoming Mame.
Mrs. Carter? Yes? My secretary said you insisted on seeing me personally.
The episode, expertly titled Lucy Carter Meets Lucille Ball, comes at the tail end of the 6th and final season, and, at least to me, reads a lot like an SNL sketch. You know, the ones where the SNL cast member who does an impression of a celebrity or political figure, and then said celebrity pops up and they gently admonish but then mostly praise each other for the stellar jobs that they're doing? Yeah, that.
Thank you for coming. I love your outfit.
Well, I love your outfit, but
Why, thank you.
do want the earrings back.
Oh, okay.
Here's Lucy is kind of the forgotten Lucy sitcom because it's neither groundbreaking like I Love Lucy nor a gigantic flop like Life with Lucy. It exists as safe, family entertainment and ran for 6 seasons from 1968 to 1974. In this version, Ball plays Lucy Carter, a widow raising her 2 teenage kids, played by her real-life children Lucy Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr. as Kim and Craig, respectively. Gail Gordon plays her foil and brother-in-law Harrison Harry Carter, who owns an employment agency where Lucy works as a secretary. In the episode in question, Kim decides to enter a Lucille Ball lookalike contest, which she unexpectedly flunks.
They said they'd give me a call, but I think it's the brush.
What makes you think that?
Well, there were 2 other girls there who were asked to stay for an interview, and they didn't even look as much like Lucille Ball as I do.
Well, I can't understand Lucille Ball letting a thing like that happen.
Upset, Lucy goes down to Ball's studio to confront the star, and hijinks ensue. Or I guess more like low jinks? Yeah, I don't know.
And I have something that belongs to you. What?
There are the typical trappings of a premise like this: the split screen, the deprecation of the in-universe character not being nearly as beautiful or talented as their real-life doppelganger.
So, a lot of my friends happen to think that I look like her.
Oh, that's ridiculous. She's old enough to be your mother.
The 2 personas getting mixed up, etc.
I think I'll play 18 holes before dinner, if you're sure you don't mind.
The episode is really bolstered by some slick, clever editing and some green screening that never looks horrible given the era. Ultimately though, the premise never really totally becomes amusing. There are things that work here and there, but the Lucy formula by this point in her career had become stale and outdated, only realized to a much more devastating degree over a decade later in Life with Lucy, which I have already done a video on. When Kim comes to tell Lucy she didn't get called to participate in the final round to get judged by Lucille Ball herself, Lucy is indignant and very judgmental of Ball, stating that what she's doing, or not doing, isn't right.
Well, that's not right. She should be there right from the beginning.
Ball is built up as kind of a jerk who's too busy to deal with a frivolous lookalike contest. Harry, a big fan of Ball, states that she's fascinating, and Lucy takes this to heart, but Harry is quick to cut her down to size.
Oh yes, I think she's positively fascinating.
Well, thank you, Harry. That's very flattering.
Why should you be flattered?
Well, all my life people have said we are very much alike.
That's true, but she overcame it.
Going into the and I use this word lightly, confrontation between Lucy and Ball, we are feeling a sense of distaste for the star. Despite Lucy going in to tell Ball what for, Ball believes Lucy is there because she was the one who was slighted in the lookalike contest. Lucy rebuffs, but is very humble when it comes to statements about looking like the star.
Mrs. Carter, you're the one who should be in the contest. Well, now That wouldn't seem right. It was her idea to be in the contest. I wouldn't think of competing against my own daughter.
Ball rationalizes that they'll have twice the chance of winning if both Kim and Lucy enter the contest. Throughout the episode, we have been told that Ball is beautiful, fascinating, reverent, and Ball herself festooning this edict of praise upon Lucy and allowing her to enter the contest without having to do any of the audition rigmarole cements in the viewer's mind that Ball is all these things, as well as gracious and kind.
And I'm also going to suggest that they add an extra finalist. You.
And later, to hammer home this morality and graciousness, Lucy attempts to hand Ball some money obtained from Harry by tricking him, and Ball refutes the offer by saying she won't accept bribes. How virtuous.
Oh, really, Mrs. Carter? I hope you don't think I'd stoop to... Oh, no. It's not for that.
When we get to the actual lookalike contest, Kim goes first and is, dare I say, my favorite when it comes to actually performing.
They crowd her on the sidewalk and refuse to budge an inch. When she calls for a policeman, they blame Mame for the pinch.
Lucy Arnaz's voice has a nice tenor to it, and the early Lucy energy is really there. Carol Cook is next, and this cameo is interesting because she was one of Ball's proteges during her Desilu days. Ball had established an actor's studio of sorts to train up-and-coming comedians in her likeness, and discovered Cook in one of the classes. Her cameo here is a reference to their work together.
And you'll wind up in a bridal suite and not some motel room.
Lucy is last and is the weakest vocally, but does move quite well. And her lyrics are... they're okay.
And you'd like to have a love life that really is a gas.
But in the end, Ball chooses Lucy.
For a performance and a voice as unmusical as mine, I have to pick Mrs. Lucy Carter.
Bestowing the grand prize on her, and she immediately gives the keys to Kim, which prompts Carol Cook to do this face, which got a genuine chuckle out of me. Lucy delivers this speech at the end, which is about May We perfume, but could easily read like, I don't know, a then upcoming performance of hers she might be a little self-conscious about.
I want the makers of May We perfume to know that I will do everything I can to represent them in a way that'll make them very proud. I'll do my best to promote goodwill and make new friends for this great country as I travel throughout the world.
It is a genuine outpouring of emotion and thankfulness for garnering some kind of acclaim, for establishing a level of goodwill that will help her cross the finish line to explicate a troubled production, but it's all done on her own terms, on her own show, on a platform she literally gave herself. And that's not to say Ball is phoning it in or was ungrateful for the accessibility she had to deliver such a message. She had past failures to point to when it came to feeling insecure about stepping away from the Lucy persona. The biggest example is her Broadway debut, Wildcat, which got tepid reviews but was a box office smash due to Ball herself. This was hot off I Love Lucy's finale, so audiences were clamoring for more Lucy, not Ball branching out as a performer. Eventually, Lucy's daffy persona and slapstick antics were added to Wildcat, much to the detriment and disdain of the creative team. And yeah, she got upset when the press started posting ugly pictures of her in magazines when she was meant to play a fabulously wealthy and admired character in Mame, but like, who wouldn't get upset by something like that?
The only bad thing I have heard, and it is even bad about the movie, is after that it might drag a little bit toward the end.
And it's not like Ball's public outright rejected her. We can see here in a 1978 interview session on America Alive, she very much still had a loyal following after Mame. And even leading up to Mame, all of Lucy's programs had 6 or more successful seasons, proving that there was an audience for her. The only time a Lucy show fell out of the Nielsen Top 20 was in Here's Lucy's final season, possibly projecting a waning interest in the star, but more likely so with the format. But because these two aspects were intrinsically linked, it's no wonder Ball would feel as though the declining ratings were a personal affront to her worth. And I would love to be clear, I'm not trying to be critical of Ball here. This whole situation is more sad, considering she thought she had to go out and do this at all, but honestly, there were worse things she could have done with her platform than tell most of her fans that, hey, I worked really hard on this movie, and I want you to go see it, please.
I never dreamed that someday
Ah, shut up.
Oh, thank you.
Ball felt as though she only was able to do one thing, be one thing, because that's what brought her the most adoration. And it's a combination of factors, of course, but Ball's insistence at continuing performing Lucy as long as she did was the nail in the coffin for her career. But at least she was able to go out on a triumphant whisper after Here's Lucy's 6th season, leaving her fans with hundreds of hours of family-friendly and innovative comedy behind her. In Ball's own words, in this business, you have to know when to get off. And so, in 1974, after 23 years of weekly television outings, she got off.
Well, that's not right.
I'd like to have Lucy do a couple of specials this year.
I don't know with whom or where.